What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate, reverse rants, no hate. Now, check this out. Somebody asked me a damn good question. Part of it was answered already when they asked it. They didn't realize that though. But listen, somebody asked me. I was I was conversating with one of my relatives, and I told him I got a video that I'm doing right now. It's uploading. So Adrien Broner is basically in that topic. You know, it's deep. It's something to think about too. But so he asked me, who do I think would have won out of Adrien Broner, Zab Judah, Shane Mosley, and Danny Garcia? And there's a reason why all these different names came up. But okay, let me answer it like this. Okay, Danny Garcia already beat the shot of Zab Judah, so we already know. Now, since we had that fight already, right? Let me say it like this. Let me put it like this. I don't like to have to do the whole fantasy thing, and that's what this is. Other than the Garcia and Judah fight. Now, let's say all in their primes. Okay, before Zab Judah got beat by Costa Zoo, before Adrien Broner got beat by Mayoga. Was it Mayoga? Maidana. Before he got beat by Marcos Maidana. Um, Shane before he got beat by Vernon Forrest. So all of Danny Garcia, before he got beat by was it Keith Thurman? Who beat him first? Thurman? Okay, however. So anyway, look, let's just say prime. And really, Garcia's still in his prime right now. So really just okay, let's put it like this, because Garcia's in his prime right now. Now, Shane's best weight, his best work was really he looked more impressive to me at lightweight. Okay, he was able his power carried up all the way to 147, but he looked more impressive at the lighter weight. Zab Judah was looking real impressive as well until after he got beat by Costa Zoo, just wasn't the same. He wasn't the same again, and the same with Adrien Broner. His best work was like at lighter weight. Now let's put them all together and just say, okay, these guys fight in their primes. I don't give what 140, 147, whatever. What I've seen is Zab Judah. Zab Judah fades halfway through the fight. He just stopped doing the things that work. He don't let his hands go as much as he should. And even though he can punch and he has speed, Zab to me makes fights harder for himself. So in his prime versus Danny Garcia in his prime, I still go with Garcia. Zab don't like pressure, and the harder you hit it makes it worse for him because he doesn't throw punches. He holds a lot. He moves. He fake low blows. Um, and I would go with Garcia. Zab in his prime versus Shane in his prime. Okay, here's the thing. Shane has problems with boxers, not power punches. Shane, he, Shane never has issues with guys that can punch. It's just guys that can box, put a jab in his face, that can move a little bit. He just has a problem with it. It doesn't matter if they movers or they stationary fighters. He just has a problem with boxers, man. He's never had a problem with bangers. Now, Zab's a boxer. Zab hand speed is there, the power is there. But I think Shane's toughness, his grittiness, his grittiness, his hand. I think he would just and the fact that Zab Judah fades in the second half of the fight, he just starts to fade. I go with I go with Shane over Zab Judah. I just don't think he can tough it out and win. I think Shane Mosley, and mind you, now we talking about all their primes. I just think Shane toughs it out, and I think Shane beats. I think Shane beats Zab Judah. I just see him fading and not being able to sustain anything enough to keep Shane off of him in his prime. I think Shane beats him. Okay. Adrien Broner versus Zab Judah. Um Broner's the slicker of the two. He's the trickier of the two. Zab is more, he's technically, Zab can box, southpaw and all. Um, I see a fight between them two going to a decision, man, and that shit could go either way. I'm just being straight up because Zab fades and Zab doesn't. The thing was Zab fades and Zab doesn't make you pay. Zab just fades and he does enough to try to win, try to land a shot, and but he just fades. Adrien Broner, um, Adrien Broner just doesn't have that mean streak either. And at his best, both of them at best, I say that shit goes to a decision. It didn't go to either one of them. Either one in a decision. You know, either one. I don't want to say a draw. I just say either one, and that shit can go either way. Decision. I see them both being very careful. Neither one of them really trying to, take control of the fight, and neither one of them. I don't see either one of them really showing dominance. I say that shit goes either way. Um, Now, Danny Garcia versus Adrien Broner. I think Danny Garcia's pressure just becomes too much. Um, the thing is this: he was still in his prime when he lost to Marcos Maidana. I just think he doesn't like pressure. And he just can't handle it. And Danny can punch both hands, and he comes forward with that pressure. I think Danny Garcia beats Adrien Broner as well. Um, Now Shane Mosley versus Danny Garcia. I think with the type of pressure that Danny Garcia is going to try to bring, Danny Garcia is not slow, but Shane hand speed and that style, they're kind of similar in a way. Only, between the two of them, between the two of them, I think Danny Garcia, stylistically, I gotta go with Shane. I just think his hand speed and movement, and like I said, remember we talk about prime. I think Danny Garcia is just outgunned in terms of like if Shane decides to let his hands go, and I've seen him do it, and he's done it back. He used to let his hands go, and I think this is a fight where they're both digging down to try to get each other out of there. But I just think with Shane having the faster hands, and he can crack two with both hands, I think Shane wins a decision over Danny Garcia. So yeah, that was a good question, man. But yeah, I go with Danny Garcia over Broner and over Zab Judah. I go with Zab Judah over Broner and Judah and Broner, either way. One of them either way. But yeah, and I think out of the four of them, it would come down to Shane versus Garcia, and I go with Garcia. I don't think Danny Garcia is as good a boxer as Miguel Cotto was. He Garcia can fight, but relies more on his punching power. I go with a prime Miguel Cotto over a prime Danny Garcia. Um, I think, and I don't look. I don't think Shane Mosley really dominates Garcia. I think he edges him. I think he wins decisively, but in a tough fight. You know, that's the way I envision it. Dude, just looking at both of them, I think he edges him out in a tough fight. And I just think his hand speed makes the difference between the two of them. Right? Otherwise, they're very similar. They both try to get you out of there, load up with hard shots, I think Shane is technically better. Shane. I go with Shane. I go with Shane by decision. I'm not saying he can't knock Garcia out, but Garcia has shown he can take a punch, and he can punch himself. I just think it's a back and forth, but I think Shane edges out and wins the decision, even unanimous. But I think he wins, by decision. So yeah, man, that was cool. But yeah, that's the way I see that. Anyway, that's all I'm gonna say on this video. And look, man, remember, never fall in love with lies. And remember, the truth brings the hate out of people. Catch y'all on the next one.